Moose Lake and the Agate Stampede, 2019.
I've been going to Moose Lake ever since I was a child. My grandfather first bought this property when I was a year old. I decided to invite my new third grade team up to Moose Lake to experience one of my favorite events of the season, the Moose Lake Agate Stampede. As we do in Moose Lake, we bike everywhere. On our trusty bikes, the Gooses, we headed to the Gem Show in downtown Moose Lake. Oops, we forgot our helmets. The Gem Show is filled with vendors from all over the world. Moose Lake is sometimes called the agate capital of the world because of the glaciers that came through and formed the rock. With Moose Lake a mecca for gem and mineral experts, the Festival of Agate Days has become an international event. £400 of agates and $400 in quarters are added to 2 tons of gravel and dumped down 2 blocks of downtown for a wild scramble. Mrs. J.S. found herself in the midst of the wild scramble, happily looking for agates, while Mrs. Moore and Miss Bennett looked on. She didn't find any quarters, but I did. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the streets are clean, and it's time for some relaxation around the lake. Tonight for dinner, we are having pie iron sandwiches, a favorite of my family's. We put bread and meat and cheese inside these pie irons and put them on the fire to toast a delicious sandwich. Your 4 third grade teachers had a fun day learning about Moose Lake, about agates, and about each other. Minnesota is an awesome place to live.
Hello, my name is Jack and my project is about the Great Lakes Aquarium. The Great Lakes Aquarium is located in Duluth, Minnesota. Its mission is to explore the connection between Lake Superior and the waters of the world. Lake Superior is the largest of the 5 Great Lakes. The Great Lakes hold 1/5 of all the fresh water in the world. Lake Superior alone is nearly 25,000 times larger than Lake Minnetonka. The first exhibit was the Origin exhibit. The foundation for the Great Lakes is about 4 billion years old. The foundation filled in with water about 14,000 years ago when the glaciers melted. After the Origins exhibit, we looked at exhibits of different organisms. First came the amphibians like the tiger salamander, which can regrow its gills, limbs, or tail. Next came the reptile exhibit, including the snapping turtle. Most people don't realize that snapping turtles are more aggressive on land than in water. The fish we saw included sculpin, which are fish that live in the deep parts of Lake Superior, up to 1,200 feet deep. We saw lake sturgeon, a popular fish for fishing, and they can live for up to 100 years, making them the longest living Great Lakes fish. In addition, we saw muskie and northern pike. Northern pike is an aggressive predator and is a popular fish to catch because it often bites bait. One of the largest tanks had various species of trout. This included the lake trout, which is native to Lake Superior. It also included the brook trout, which is actually not a trout. It is technically a char, which is a cousin of the trout. One of my favorite exhibits was the invasive species exhibit, which included sea lampreys, goldfish, and zebra mussels. Sea lampreys attach themselves unto fish and suck their blood. Most fish don't survive. There were some exhibits of freshwater fish that were not found in the Great Lakes. One of my favorites were piranhas, which live in the Amazon River. They eat almost anything, but typically don't eat large animals, even though many people think they do. The final exhibit was a huge feeding tank. The tank included freshwater drum, long-nosed gar, American paddlefish, blue catfish, flathead catfish, bowfin, and lake sturgeon. Volunteer divers with scuba gear threw food to the fish at the bottom of the tank. I learned many cool facts about fish and other organisms at the aquarium. I also learned a lot about the Great Lakes.
Split Rock Lighthouse is important to Minnesota history because shipping iron ore from the Iron Range across the Great Lakes was a major Minnesota industry. Train cars took the ore to Duluth Harbor and Agate Bay to load on huge ships. The shore is rocky and storms are powerful, making Lake Superior the most dangerous water in the world. Lighthouses aid navigation by telling ships where they are and where the coast is, making Lake Superior safer. The push to build Split Rock began after an early November storm sunk 29 ships. In 1909, construction started on Split Rock Lighthouse. Construction on the lighthouse finished in 1910. A road was built near the lighthouse in 1924. Split Rock was decommissioned in 1969 because of newer technology. While it was in operation, the lighthouse was staffed by 3 lightkeepers and their families. Living at the lighthouse was challenging because it was isolated and on top of solid rock. At first, the only access was by boat. Keepers needed to leave over the winter. When the road was built, it allowed keepers and their families to live at the lighthouse year-round. Winter was still challenging, however. The water pipes could not be buried, so in the winter, keepers had to carry water out from the lake and use outhouses. Because there were no gas lines, the keepers needed to use wood fires to heat their homes and cook. In order to tell sailors where they are, a lighthouse's signal light needs to be visible from far away and recognizable. The lighthouse used lenses to focus the light into a concentrated beam. Clockwork gears turned the beam with precise timing so that sailors see a flash of light from the lighthouse at predictable timing. Each lighthouse had a distinct flash pattern, so sailors knew which lighthouse they were looking at. Split Rock had a 2-second flash with a 10-second interval between flashes. Split Rock also had loud foghorns that could be heard up to 5 miles away. Split Rock Lighthouse helped sailors navigate into and out of Duluth for 59 years until newer navigation technology made lighthouses less important and the government closed it. Even with the newer technology, shipping iron ore across the Great Lakes could be a dangerous business, as shown by the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald in an early November storm in 1975, 70 years after the storm that convinced people to build Split Rock Lighthouse.
This is a maple tree. To get the syrup out, you drill a hole and use a special tap to get it out. Syrup is used on pancakes, waffles, French toast, and some people like to dip sausage in syrup. Syruping, that is what getting syrup is called, happens in the spring and peaks in March. The syrup is made from sap from the maple tree. So far, the Arboretum has turned 3,300 gallons of sap into 95 gallons of syrup. Come with me. Sap tastes like sugar water when it comes out. To turn sap into syrup, you need to put it into a steel evaporator. The evaporator can cook as much as 80 gallons of sap an hour. Quicker spring warm-ups may shorten sap flow. 67 gallons of sap are made per year. Each year, the taste of the sap is different. Arboretum is a Minnesota Producers Association member for making maple syrup. I love the Arboretum because each year my family and I go to the Arboretum to see all of the lights they hang up for Christmas. We always take lots of pictures. It is a lot of fun. See you next time!
Hello, my name is Calvin. For my location, I did Sudan Underground Mine. It is named Sudan after the tropical country in Africa. It was meant to be a joke, but the name stayed. First, I went inside the pulley room, and the pulley just happened to be going. The pulley is what controls the elevators that bring you down into the mine. It was very loud, and they must need so much wire if it takes you so deep underground. Sudan Underground Mine is located in the Vermilion Range, which is one of the 3 ranges that make up the Iron Range here in Minnesota. Next, we went underground. To get down, we took the elevator. It was very loud, and you couldn't see anything other than the stone inside. We went all the way down to level 27, which was 2,341 feet below the surface and 689 feet below sea level. It was very cold, and there was a train. The train took us to a place where the tour guide showed us how they mined iron. It was very dark. They had to buy their own supplies, so they would have to save their own money to buy their light source. They used candles for light. They call the mine the Cadillac of the mines because it's very safe. The iron is unusually strong. It is also very heavy. I hope you enjoyed my presentation about Sudan Underground Mine, and I hope you go there sometime. Thank you.
Glensheen is a mansion, and it was owned by the Congdon family. The Congdons owned lots of mines in northern Minnesota. Chester Algate Congdon and Clara Hasbury Bannister Congdon were the owners of the house. They had 3 children: Walter, Edward, Marjorie, Helen, Alfred, John, Elizabeth, and Robert Congdon. It was a 39-roomed house with 3 floors and a lift, aka elevator. It was built in 1905 and is in Duluth, Minnesota. There was a murder and the house was given to one of their children until they died. Then it was given to the U of M for people to come and learn about it. Here are some cool facts that I think are sweet. The table is flowers and it's like a puzzle. It's many different marbles cut into little pieces to fit into the spots. The light fixtures are hand beaten copper crafted to look like water lilies. The globe is what they think all the Congdons liked to plan their trips because they like to travel. The stairs are Minnesota handcrafted, and it must have took many days, maybe like a week or so, to craft all that detail. The Congdons were very famous and wealthy, and the house is to show what it was like to live then. The Glensheen Mansion is important because to learn about what houses were like back then. Another cool fact is that this button right here is when they're ready for the next meal or next serving, they'll just press the button and the servants will bring it.
Okay, welcome to Silver Bay, Minnesota. Silver Bay, Minnesota is on the shore of Lake Superior. And it has a large taconite in it, which its mascot, probably, I don't know, Rocky Taconite, and taconite is melted down to make steel and used for cars and other structures. And my grandfather used to be a miner. Thank you for watching. Wait. Well, this is the taconite plant at the edge of Lake Superior, Minnesota. That's a whole lot of taconite. Taconite is very helpful to the rest of northern Minnesota. They mine the taconite, put it on ships, and then ship it out to other parts of Minnesota. It
all started with a dream, the story of a boy who changed the world by reaching new heights.
Hi, I'm Amelia, and I'm here at the Charles Lindbergh House and Museum in Little Falls, Minnesota.
Charles Lindbergh grew up on a farm in Little Falls, Minnesota near the Mississippi River. Charles was always very curious about the world around him. He loved the outdoors, and when he was a kid, he slept on the back porch. Growing up, Charles worked on the farm growing food and raising animals such as chickens. To help hatch chickens, Charles bought an egg incubator. He took it apart and built 5 of his own. Within a couple of years, he hatched more than 2,000 chicks. One day when Charles was young, he heard a motor from above. Curious, he decided to climb onto the roof and got his first glimpse of an airplane. After that day, he would lie on the ground and watch the airplanes fly overhead and dreamed of one day being able to fly himself. Whenever Charles could, he would read about airplanes. He learned to drive a Model T car when he was 11. In 1916, he drove his father around Minnesota on his campaign for the Senate. In high school during World War I, he grew food instead of attending school. Charles spent 3 terms in college in Madison and then dropped out due to low grades. After dropping out of college, he attended a few flight schools and graduated in 1925. In 1926, he decided to take up the challenge of flying non-stop and solo across the Atlantic Ocean. On May 20, 1927, Lindbergh takes off from New York. After 33 hours, 29 minutes and 30 seconds, 3,614 miles, and 3,000 pounds of fuel, he lands in Le Bourget Airfield in Paris, France. A crowd of 150,000 people are waiting for Lindbergh when he lands. After Lindbergh completes his flight, he becomes the first person to successfully fly non-stop and solo across the Atlantic Ocean. He has made history. After Lindbergh completes his historic flight, he is inspired to participate in early rocket research, protect the environment, animals, and people around the world, and share the story of his life by writing books, like The Spirit of St. Louis, which in 1954 won the Pulitzer. Charles helped create many of the airline routes we use today. He also helped develop a perfusion pump, a forerunner of today's heart-lung machine. In the 1960s, he helped the Minnesota Historical Society turn his boyhood home into a museum because he wanted to share the story of how a boy from Little Falls became a world-famous aviator, inventor, environmentalist, author, and scientist. The Charles Lindbergh House is important to Minnesota's past, present, and future because it tells us that no matter where you come from, a small town or a big city, as long as you never give up and keep on soaring, you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. All you need is a dream.
We're off to the Spam Museum.
More than 100 million pounds of Spam Luncheon meat was among Lonely's shipments, along with many other G.O.A. Hormel and Company products. The company doubled its production to meet the demands. Citizens and their leaders, such as Russians Nita Khrushchev and Great Britain's Margaret Thatcher, cherished the foods during war and expressed loyalty to them afterwards.
Spam garlic. As long as you're not a vampire, you'll love the flavor of Spam garlic. Beware of Spampires, though they are like vampires, only they suck all the Spam garlic from your cupboards. Spam, hot and spicy. Spam, hot and spicy, turns up the heat on the flavor you already love. In fact, 9 out of 10 Eskimos highly recommend it.
products are sold in 44 countries around the world. Spam was made from pork, and the pork is from the shoulder, the butt of a pig. It's also made from salt, water, potato starch, sugar, and sodium nitrate. 1 million cans of Spam products have been sold. Did you know that Spam was born the same year as the Golden Gate Bridge and J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit? There are over 13 Spam varieties. In which country who eats the most cans of Spam per person?
A year, it's actually Guam, and they are 16 cans per person a year, which is a lot of Spam. A lot of Spam.
This was where Spam was made. The giant Spam can right there. Right there, that's the world headquarters of Hormel Foods.
Last fall, my family and I went to Banning State Park. This Minnesota State Park is north of Minneapolis in Sandstone, Minnesota. We went up north to see trees changing color because we love to hike. Here you see trees that had turned to different colors like orange, bright red, and yellow. Now this is a video I took of my family being silly while hiking.
Wait, honestly, what is it? Is this it? Hold on. Oh, shit. Good point. So, Dad, what do you like the most? A taco or a burger?
Tacos.
Dad, can you show your face?
My favorite are tacos.
Hey, I like that. And it's also soon going to become Halloween, so.
Say it to me.
Hi. And also we made a new tree house, which is, a chocolate house. A chocolate. No, sorry, I just keep on getting names wrong. It's a chocolate. It's a gingerbread chocolate chip house.
No, it's a
Haunted house.
Say gingerbread.
Wow, that's not. Oh my God. Wow. Look at these rocks. Look at those holes. Oh my God, that is so creepy. Wow, this is a nice pile. That's a nice pile. Okay, bye-bye. Bye.
Here you see more trees that are turning colors. And this is my dad jumping off a fence. This is Sadie looking at the river. Plus, see dog versus snow. It's really funny and hilarious. This is the last picture of the river. Plus, this is a really old building. And that is some rocks that I have no idea why I took a picture of. And this is our last picture. I hope you enjoy. Thank you and bye.
Hi, it's Taylor here. Today we're going to be learning about Minnehaha Depot. Let's go learn. The Milwaukee Road Station agents referred to this quaint little Minnehaha Depot as the Princess. In 1910, 3 trains made 13 round trips daily to the depot. It was the scene of fierce activity during World War I and II because of the military traffic in and out of Fort Snelling. The Milwaukee Road closed the station in August 1963 and presented it
to the Minnesota Historical Society in 1964. The Minnesota Transportation Museum, Inc. and inflation of the society was undertaken the restoration and maintenance of the depot. Let's look around.
This is where they probably load all the packages up for people in World War I and II. They drop this stuff off. As you can see, it's very far. This Minnehaha Depot was built in the 1870s, so it's very old. It also goes both ways. As you can see, we are near Minnehaha Falls in South Minneapolis. Now it's a historical site for all. This is where they'd probably put some stuff. Let's go on the other side. On the floor, you can see different letters. Let's see what one says. They all say the same thing. Planet Code. Something like that. Now, in 2019, you could all see how different it looks. This is the other side, same as the other one. Some people say it looks like a gingerbread house from the way it looks. Let's go on the front. Here's the sign. See you next time. Bye. Hi, this is Will Miken, and last summer on Amazing Race, I raced 157 miles to Duluth, Minnesota. My first pit stop was the aerial lift bridge, Duluth's most famous landmark. The city's 5 lift bridge operators raise the bridge up and down about 4,500 times every year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during the Great Lakes shipping season that runs from March to January. If you look in the middle of the bridge, you will see the pilot house. This is where the operators stay while they are working. The bridge allows sailboats, fishing charters, and giant freighters like the McCarthy to enter the port of Duluth Superior. In order for these giant vessels to get to safely, the bridge must start its ascent while they are 1.5 miles away in case something goes wrong. It takes 3 minutes to raise the 2 million pound bridge 120 feet. When a long lift like this happens, traffic can be backed up for over a mile. It is a landmark that requires patience.
Well, turn around and say hi to the camera.
Hello.
Here we are about to walk across the Duluth Aerial Bridge.
Thinking out the box from where I stay. Am I wrong for saying that I choose another way? I ain't trying to do what everybody else doing, just cause everybody doing what they all do.
Although the bridge may look like a ride, it is not. But back in the 1905, when the bridge was created, the aerial lift bridge had a gondola, similar to a ski gondola, that could carry 350 people, plus wagons and streetcars across the canal at a time. Due to a growing population on Park Point and an increase in automobiles and tourists, they removed the gondola and added the lift bridge in 1929. The operators of the bridge say that today the boats aren't their main worry when the bridge goes. It's the people. One operator said they have seen people try to jump and hang on to the bridge as it starts to raise.
If one thing I know, I fall but I grow. I'm walking down this road of mine, this road that I go home. So am I wrong?
I really enjoyed visiting the aerial lift bridge with my family. It reminded me of a giant elevator when I first saw it. I hope you'll all get the chance to visit the aerial lift bridge one day. Thanks for watching.
Lake Minnetonka by Addie Berman. The map of Lake Minnetonka. It is Minnesota's ninth largest lake and is popular among boaters, sailors, and fishermen. The North Home Bridge, built 1909. The Arch by Lake Minnetonka, built 1905. The first people who inhabited the Lake Minnetonka area were indigenous natives. The map of Lake Minnetonka in 1892. The new invention to have fun on the lake. Harvesting ice. Girls swimming in swimming suits on the lake in the 1880s. Steamboats that were taxis to Big Island. The first roller coaster on Lake Minnetonka. A closer view of the roller coaster. The first hotel on Lake Minnetonka in Deep Haven. Sandy Beach in Deep Haven in early 1900s. Area was known for hunting and fishing. Photo taken 1880s, 1890s. Downtown Excelsior in 1893. Old-fashioned water slide. Fun for all. This is how long the ice is. Minnehaha steamboats, after being restored, now you can take on a cruise. Lake Minnetonka has a unique ecosystem for the wildlife and opportunities for fishing, boating, and swimming. Minnetonka is from the Dakota language meaning big water, and Lake Minnetonka is an important news site. The population of fish in the lake has increased. This is a picture of Big Island.
Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion. Like how a single word can make a heart open.
I hope you enjoyed learning about Lake Minnetonka. The end.
My name is Henry Childs. For my Amazing Race video, I really wanted to take a closer look at Orchestra Hall and the Minnesota Orchestra. I was very grateful when the Laureanos, Manny and Claudette, accepted my request for a tour of the hall, including some backstage areas that I had never seen before. Manny Laureano is the principal trumpet at the Minnesota Orchestra. Claudette Laureano directs orchestra music here at Breck. Mr. and Mrs. Laureano also jointly lead the Minnesota Youth Symphonies. I get to learn from them there, and my mom did too, over 25 years ago. My walk through Orchestra Hall with Mr. Laureano began backstage. I got to see all the sturdy wooden crates in which the musicians' instruments travel when the Minnesota Orchestra tours. It was fun to see the crates labeled with all the instruments in the orchestra. It was amazing to imagine those delicate little instruments carefully packed into those crates and snugly traveling to exciting places all over the world. I wound up talking about travel and about the value of travel with Mr. Laureano. He noted that for a long time the orchestra was referred to as the Orchestra on Wheels, because it spent so much time on the road. That history remains part of the Minnesota Orchestra, which continues to make important efforts to travel so that, as Mr. Laureano said, other people get to know you and you get to know other people. Mr. Laureano and the Minnesota Orchestra have traveled to Canada, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, England, Japan, Hong Kong, Australia, and Vienna, among many other places. They have been to many of these places multiple times. There are terrific photos throughout the backstage areas of the orchestra's travels. The musicians always look like they're having a great time. I can see why. Eventually, we made our way to the stage. It was breathtaking to look out at the auditorium. But before I noticed how big the room was, I noticed something very small. Tiny holes in the wooden floor of the stage that had been made by cello end pins, which are the pins extended from the bottom of cellos and elevate them off the ground. Seeing those holes made me feel connected to the many cellists who have played on that stage. Mr. Laureano pointed out that Orchestra Hall is a, so to speak, shoebox hall. There are examples of such halls all over the world. One of the first, and among the most famous, of these is in Vienna. There are also arena halls, which are more like ovals in shape. Ultimately, Mr. Laureano's reflections on Orchestra Hall and his time there returned again and again to people. He described many as old friends, some of whom he had known for decades, and this focus on people made sense to me. Music is made by people and is loved by people.
This is Henry Steglich. My family went to the Wabasha Caves. The caves are along the Mississippi River in downtown St. Paul. The sandstone caves are actually mines. Because they are man-made, the caves were used to grow mushrooms and aged cheese. In the 1920s, the caves were used as a nightclub and restaurant. Gangsters were said to frequently go to the nightclub in the caves. Don Dillinger, a bank robber, robbed 24 banks and 4 police stations. During the bank robberies, some mortgages were destroyed, so some people thought he was doing good things. Ma Barker and her sons, who were gangsters, hid out in the club. Some say that she just took care of the criminal and sent her to the movies when they were committing crime. At the time of the nightclubs, it was the time of Prohibition. It was illegal to sell, transportation, import, or produce alcohol. So the club would give it away free but charged for food and the show. The Wabasha Caves are a fun place to visit.
Welcome to Abbott Northwestern Hospital. Abbott Northwestern Hospital is the largest non-profit hospital in the Twin Cities and is over 100 years old. It is in Minneapolis. It is an important place in Minnesota's history for several reasons, including that I was born there, my mom was born there, and my grandpa was born there, and my great-grandpa. It makes me a fourth-generation Abbott Northwestern Hospital baby. Besides being a special place in my family's history, Abbott Northwestern Hospital is important to Minnesota because it was founded on the values kindness and innovation. The hospital began in 1882 by a woman named Harriet Walker. She was born in Ohio and eventually moved to Minnesota because her husband sold stones to James J. Hill for his buildings. She was a mom of 8 kids. She got 44 other women to help her, and they called it Northwestern Hospital for Women and Children. They rented a small house and got started with their charity hospital. The nurses were called sisters. The woman at the hospital hired Dr. Amos Abbott as the first consulting doctor at Northwestern. Eventually, he went out on his own and started Abbott Hospital less than a mile away. He was also known to help people in need, even if they couldn't pay money. In 1970, Abbott Hospital and Northwestern Hospital merged because they were similar. They both started out and small and grew into large, outstanding hospitals that served all people, including those who couldn't afford it. Now, Abbott Northwestern Hospital continues to be innovative. There is Sister Kenny Institute for Rehab, the Minneapolis Heart Institute, Children's Hospital, and the Baby Mother Center, and so much more. Abbott Northwestern still serves the community like Harriet Walker and Dr. Amos Abbott by having lots of community partnerships and services to help the neighborhoods surrounding the hospital. We can learn a lot from Abbott Northwestern Hospital. 1. Small groups of people who care a lot can make a big difference. Hard work and passion can grow into something really big that lasts a long time. 2. Minnesota has women to thank for starting a hospital for people who needed it, but couldn't pay. 3. Minnesota history is connected. It isn't about one thing happening at a time. Harriet Walker is connected to other important parts of Minnesota history, including James J. Hill and the Walker Art Center. P.S. Did you know that the Walker Art Center was originally Harriet's house? You can find her influence many places. You can be an influence too. Thank you for watching. This is a fourth generation baby signing off, Mallory Hapstreet.
This is the front of the Minnesota State Capitol. This is a grand staircase that leads to all the floors of the state capitol. This is one of the many beautiful artworks in the state capitol. The guy in the statue is Cass Gilbert. He is the architect of the capitol after the first capitol burned down. He also traveled the world and Europe to seek information to design it. They started building it in 1901. We found this statue on the first floor. It is of Martin Luther King Jr. He is the one on the left, definitely not the one on the right. Also on the first floor, we found the governor's reception room. In this room, there were cool designs in the walls. Here is one of the paintings in the governor's reception room. The painting is of the Battle of Gettysburg. I found this cool design on the ceiling. The chandelier is so big a person could actually fit in it. This here is the rotunda. The star in the middle of the rotunda represents the North Star. I think the Minnesota State Capitol is important to Minnesota's past, present, and future because it is where the government makes important decisions. By the way, this is the House of Representatives. This is where they vote on laws. They hit a button on the desk to vote. The valuable information information I learned is that the government creates the laws. This is the Supreme Court. By the way, sorry the guy's in the way. This is a painting in the Supreme Court. In the Capitol, there are a lot of nice paintings. In this picture, you can see the word lex. Lex means law in Latin. This is the quadriga. It is coated with 8 pounds of gold. Here's 2 fun facts about the Minnesota State Capitol. First fun fact is it was modeled after the Vatican in Italy. Second fun fact is it has the 2nd largest dome in the world. See you later!